Should have been in top four.
Anyway. Moving on slightly from them, it's reported that Mikel Arteta is close to getting a new lucrative long-term contract at Arsenal. Is that the right thing for Arsenal to do at this point, Sam?
Arsenal fans, I love you. You get me? But no, this is not the right decision to make now. I think they should wait till the end of next season, because this season is very important for Arsenal. This next season that's about to come up is very important for Arsenal. I think they need to wait to see what happens this season. I think now they go sign their two or three missing pieces this season, and they go and take it to the next level. Now, from corporate level, from Kroenke level, from that type of level, I understand why they're doing this. Obviously, because their club is back in the top four, because their club is in Champions League football, because they have stability. So I understand where they're coming from. Like, would it make a difference to Josh Kroenke's life if they wins an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup? Obviously, the answer is no. They want stability, they want progression, they want Champions League football, they want that type of stuff. So I really understand where they're coming from. But from a football perspective, which is what we're here to discuss because we're not accountants, I don't necessarily think it's the right decision right now, because next season he must deliver something. Because we sat here and we said the same thing last season. Look, next season will be the year that we'll deliver. Next year will be the year that Arteta wins something. So we actually have to just wait and see exactly what happens next year. And I'm looking at this Arsenal team and I'm thinking, okay, let's assume a summer from now Carlo Ancelotti gets available and Arsenal still haven't won anything. And, why shouldn't you go get Ancelotti as an example? So I think there needs to be a cutoff point. There needs to be a threshold point. There needs to be a point where you say, okay, enough is enough. And I think this season is going to be that year. Now, the problem is, like, I really understand why Arsenal fans are happy about Arteta, and I understand why they're upset. This is the one where I do sit on the fence. Because from the Arsenal fans that are upset, they're saying, okay, why couldn't you just win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup at least? Win me a trophy, win something, so we have something to vindicate this process with, this thing with. And the other side is like, okay, we have stability, we're finishing in the Champions League spots, we're consistently challenging for a league, we actually have a team that we like, we're attractive in Europe right now, we're respected. Like, I really understand why both perspectives are true. I have to sit on the fence on that one, but I have to say, contract right now, probably not that true, not that right of a decision, because they just have to wait to see what happens next year. He has to deliver next year.
What do you mean he has to deliver next year? I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Arteta reach a Champions League final or semi-final next season, right? And he's 1 point behind Man City with 95, 96 points, right? And he doesn't win a trophy. And Pep leaves. Would you sack Arteta?
Depends who's
genuine question. Depends. The same market is available now. They aren't going to get. Would you sack Arteta?
No,
because you are the one who said they must deliver.
Yeah, they must deliver.
Okay, hold on. Yes, okay. I'm giving you a hypothetical that is very plausible, by the way. They might have an amazing season next year, get a Champions League final, right? And lose by 1 point the league and have 96 points. And Pep suddenly at the end of the season, he wins the league and he says, I am gone. I'm done. Do you think they should sack Arteta at that point?
Depends who's available.
Do you know what it comes down to? I agree with the statement that he has to start winning and his jobs to be under pressure or questioned if they're not winning trophies. I understand where Arsenal fans, are coming from when they say he's got to win or he's got to go. I understand that. But I still think within that, you have to apply context to it, which is how far off the top of the league is he? How did he perform compared to the team also the majority of people that want him out will also tell you that City are the best team in the world or one of the best teams in the world and they're almost unstoppable. So when you're a handful of points away or you're that close to them, are you being fair to that manager? I think you have to put context on it. If Pep decides to leave, if Pep decides to go, that also changes the landscape if you're close to him. I think what Arsenal need to look at more so than they have to look at the trophies. Can he get over the line? It's whether they believe he can get over the line or not. But they also have to look at the context of the dressing room as well. If that dressing room is still bought into him, if that dressing room is running through brick walls for him, and you're this close to winning the major trophies, it's a very difficult decision to sack him because you run the risk of going backwards, even with a coach whose CV is better, because maybe that new coach doesn't get on with the squad as well. And these sort of almost intangibles are always left out of conversations when it comes to this situation. For the first time ever, I actually made, again, outside of a run-in, because I did think they'd win the league when they got 8 points clear last season. But in terms of a statement I've not made about, I think he will win Arsenal a major trophy if he's backed. So I think over the next 2 to 3 years, he'll win a Premier League or a Champions League for them. I think he'll get. I think he'll get over the line and do that. But then all that's going to happen is, if and when he does that, is you'll get all the hypotheticals of, yeah, but if we'd have sacked him 4 years ago and got a better manager, we might have won 2 Premier Leagues by now or 2 Champions Leagues by now. And that's why I think the conversation around Arteta is not getting old per se, but you know that whatever happens, the debate will get kicked down the road. The can will be kicked down the road. You won't get people that go, do you know what? I was really wrong about him. You'll get a lot have already done that. But you'll just get like the same people that hate him will just kick the can and say, yeah, but he only won 1 Premier 5 years, still not good enough. And unless he goes on a dominant run like Pep has just done, which is only happened 3 times in the history of English football, with Liverpool, like Man United with Fergie, and now they still won't be satisfied. So I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. I don't think it's one that should be shut down from happening. I also don't think it's one where the answer should just be a point blank yes or a point blank no. I think it's nuanced. I think you have to look, as you say, at the manager market, who's going to remain in the Premier League by the start of the 25-26 season could look very, very different because Pep and Klopp, neither of them are here. And the landscape could change. And then suddenly Arteta could be the best manager in the league and go on and win 2 or 3 of the next 4 or 5 Premier Leagues, and all of this conversation will be forgotten about. If that makes sense.
Yeah, can I? Sorry, Hassan.
That's wrong. The reason why the logic is wrong.
No, hold on, Hassan. Let me just.
It's because Man City could still get the best of the best. Man City could still get Zidane and sign the best players and do all that type of stuff. They could still do that and still end up beating Arteta.
They can.
Weird thing, Pep is not the only one that can beat Arteta. That's the reality. So we cannot sit up here and just say, "Khalas, if Pep's gone, I'm guaranteed that Arsenal win the league." Yeah, but what if City signs Zinedine Zidane and then sign the next best player and the next best player and the next best player and spend 300 million? What's stopping them from winning?
Because I don't think Zidane is the same level as Pep. I'm sorry, Osam.
So yeah, this is
I don't think Zidane is the same level as Pep.
I don't think there's any other manager in the world, including Ancelotti, by the way, who has the dominant stranglehold domestically that Pep does.
Yes,
and we know that when you look at Jose had it a little bit in his pomp, but Jose's not there. Like Ancelotti, still, he might do it next season now. He's an amazing manager in a league. He's never won back-to-back league titles in his entire career. And there's something in that because domestically it's hard to do. There are only a handful of domestic managers that have gone back-to-back. It's a very, very hard thing to do. So I don't think that City would just be lucky enough to have 2 managers on the bounce that could dominate in that way. Because I don't think anybody else, there's no one in the world out there at the moment that, again, say Ancelotti wins it next year with Bayer Leverkusen. Not Ancelotti, Alonso. And then they get Alonso. Maybe that's plausible. Maybe that's a guy that could step into that void. But again, you have to then look at those things. And you could be right. Maybe another person comes in and dominates. And that will then be where Arsenal made the wrong decision. But I think it's one of those things where Arsenal fans are in a difficult position about Arteta's future because he hasn't probably won enough trophies at this point.
That's why I'm on the fence.
So, no, and I do get it, but that's why I think it's a bespoke conversation at the time, at the end of a season. And what I mean by that is, say Pep does leave and City they stop being the dominant force, but by then Chelsea have sorted themselves out, or Man United have sorted themselves out, and suddenly start winning the Premier Leagues, and Arsenal are still second. Then you get to that space of we should have sacked him 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe as an example. Yeah. But the problem is as well, this is why it's all with hindsight such a great thing, but you never get the answers because if you had have sacked him and brought in, I don't know who they want, Simeone, you might have gone backwards sooner. You never know what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, but I look at the situation now, Terry, and I still think Arteta already. The objectives of building a squad that is set to compete for the next 3, 4, 5 years is right there. The age, the level of players, and not a lot of people. And he started from scratch. People, there is no player here that was a guaranteed starter in the old regime.
Who
He
are you talking
literally
about?
built Arteta's team now at the current moment. He might not be the guy that takes you over the line, but I'm sorry. I'm going to say what Hussam said, and I said that. Arsenal deserve to win the Premier League this season. For whatever reason, whatever happened, Man City won it because they have whatever mentality, whatever, and they have something in the water that gives them the title. But
Referees.
Arsenal were amazing this season. They were amazing. Winning 16 games out of 18 is something not a lot of clubs do. They did that. They did that under Arteta. Well, every single one that bantered them now said that they were going to fall off. But at the end, they didn't win because City won every game for whatever reason that is. You can actually argue. But Arsenal were on par with City this season. The reason why I say that, because actually Arsenal beat City at home and drew with them away. And Arsenal are the only team in the league that didn't lose a game against the top six. Didn't lose one game.
No, I do get where you're coming from, but I just think, as I say, when it comes to this Arteta conversation, I don't think it will ever be, unless he has a very dominant period with the two extremes in like both camps, it will never end. The majority of Gooners, I think they're almost over it, if that makes sense. The two extremes, the ones that will defend him no matter what. Okay, he could win nothing for another 5 years, 6 years, and they'll still argue it was the right reason. They'll have their reasons there. There are others where he could win everything over the next 5 years, and they will still criticize him. It took too long to get there. I remember this with Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney didn't score a World Cup. The people that hated Rooney went on about it. When he did score a World Cup, they didn't go, "Oh, thanks, Rooney." They went, "Fucking should have scored at the earlier one, shouldn't he?" They didn't drop their agenda just because he scored at the World Cup. So I think that we're almost at a point with the Arteta conversation where we're always seem to be, because they're very loud, listening to the two extremes, where I think most sensible opinions are in the middle, which is you need to look at it on the bespoke basis. You can't be comparing it to what all other teams are doing. And that's the problem with football fans. We're always looking for, oh, yeah, but it's the same as this, it's the same as that. And sometimes it is, but there are other times where there are fundamental differences. Like, I am not accepting of Liverpool fans saying that they're the beginning of a rebuild. You're not. You have got the man running your club, who you all said was one of the biggest reasons you were successful under Klopp, who's picking your new manager. You had a title challenging team up until the last 4 or 5 games this season. I don't call that a rebuild. I call it maybe a transition period, if we're going to give it a word. But I expect Liverpool to still be a very good and potent team and to be in the title race to some degree next year. I consider a rebuild to be what Man United are about to do, gutting the entire club out and rebuilding over a number of years. And that, for me, is why you can't compare the pressure on Man United's manager next season versus Slot. I think there's a fundamental difference. I think having the same lens for every club in for every sort of situation and permutation is wrong. And that's why you've got to look at the Arteta situation. If there's a better manager with a proven track record that you believe can take this style of football and squad and take you to the next level, and he's attainable, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying I want to change. But most of the time, when anyone says that, you say, well, who's the manager? They say Pep or Klopp or Ancelotti, and none of these guys are attainable. So therefore, it's elementary. It's almost a redundant point because you can't get those better managers. So if you're swapping, you're taking a huge fundamental risk of going backwards, a much bigger risk than going to a proven out and out better manager. So I think it's right for him to get a new deal. I think it sends a message that they're behind what he is doing, but to relieve pressure on himself, if he wins a trophy next year, it just relieves that pressure. And I think
do you think Carabao Cup is enough next season?
It depends on what Harry does. It's say he comes second to City again, and City are on 96 points, they get 95, wins a Carabao Cup, gets to a Champions League semi-final. I think that's more than enough to keep him going. Right. I think he just needs to. He needs to win a trophy, maybe even 2, just to relieve that pressure and get that pressure off of his shoulders. And I think he'll be okay. And he wants to listen. I always think if you were to get Klopp, to be honest, Klopp didn't try hard enough, in my opinion, in the first 3 or 4 years to win those domestic trophies. And he probably looks back at it now and slightly regrets it, because you add those extra trophies, and it's soon. I was looking at Rashford's trophy total the other day. He's on 6 trophies, which isn't bad for a player that's been in a very, very poor Man United team. To have 6 major trophies is really nice. But then suddenly if you add a league or a Champions League to that, suddenly you start to have a really, really nice trophy collection. So that's what managers have to think about is, pick up a little one here, pick up one there, and then you might go for a period where you win 2 or 3 big ones, and those smaller ones really add up. They really make your trophy haul that much bigger. And it's why Man United and Chelsea have United have so many trophies compared to our counterparts. It's just that even in our bad periods,
All of them.
all of the trophies we pick up. So both our clubs have picked up trophies in their bad periods. Man United throughout the sort of late 70s and 80s. You guys did it in the noughties. Picking up that Carabao Cup, picking up that FA Cup, picking up that European trophy unexpectedly. These things are all what create that size. And I think that managers have to view things through that lens as well. Some more super chats here. This one.